Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the celebration of the great Inspector Jacques Clouseau. Never has the world seen a better example of prime police work.
We must find that woman.
A master at understanding the criminal mind and police theory, he has trained countless over his decades of service.
Now then, Hercule, what is the inescapable conclusion?
Maria Gambrelli killed the chauffeur.
What? You idiot! Impossible! She's protecting someone.
How do you know that?
Instinct!
But the facts?
You are forgetting the most important fact. Motive!
He is a master of disguise and never lets his clever be blown, no matter the circumstances. In the face of adversity, he has always come through.
Special delivery at Bern. Were you expecting one? A bird?
Today, let's celebrate this great man as we look at A Shot in the Dark, today on the SuperCaZt.
Welcome back to the SuperCaZt. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm, of course, your host, the man who put the super in SuperCaZt, the Super Foch. And as always, I'm joined by my good buddy and co-host, Steve Z, the man who put the Z in SuperCaZt.
How's it going, folks?
And today we are going to go back a ways, man, and talk about a film that's part of a series that we are both huge fans of, and that's of course the Pink Panther series. But the movie we're talking about today, although it's part of the Pink Panther series, is not called Pink Panther. As you know by the title of this video, it is A Shot in the Dark, and it is your classic whodunit, and who doesn't enjoy a good whodunit? Am I right?
Yeah, and especially whenever it's being investigated by Peter Sellers as Professor Clouseau. I mean, this is great film. I remember you introduced me to this series, and because I remember you had it on VHS, and you were just like, "You got to watch this. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen." And I remember, I agreed. I went out and I bought the same VHS set that you had, and this one in particular was one that I played to death. I thought it was the funniest. I thought it was the best made. And I'm glad we're talking about it because I have not seen this movie, and I would say like close to 20 years because it's not been as available as it used to be. Like it hasn't even had a Blu-ray release. It's last time I've seen it was DVD. So I'm glad we're talking about it. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I was introduced to this. I want to say by my grandparents or somebody had bought those for me for a present, and I was just floored with all of the films, but especially this one, because I had never heard of A Shot in the Dark, and we were like 12, 13, something like that. And I mean, it was just hilarious. Peter Sellers is in the same school as Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton and all these guys, but he's just perfect. He is just really, really funny. And this is a film that I don't know a lot of people are familiar with. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this film in particular in regards to this series, but I'm super excited to talk about it. This one in particular is just, I'm just really excited to talk about it, as you can tell.
Yeah, let's get into it. So, Shot in the Dark, it came out 1964. The same year as the first Pink Panther, which to me is kind of crazy. But I guess it does kind of show you things have not changed too much because now we're always talking about oversaturation. We got 4 Marvel movies in a year. Imagine having 2 Pink Panther movies in the same year. This one gets released after the other one because I think the other one was a big hit, and this one had already gone into production. They were finishing it up, and they released it. And this one, do you know the story behind it? Like, how did it come to be?
Not really, no.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. It started out as a play. It was a French play, actually, called L'Idiot. And I guess which means just the idiot. And he's a guy that's investigating a murder, just like in the movie, except he's an idiot, you know? So then they developed it for Broadway for Americans, and it was called A Shot in the Dark, which a very good title because, I mean, I have to say it. This movie starts off with a shot in the dark. Nobody knows who shot, and it also means this guy doesn't have a clue. He's just throwing stuff out there. It really is a very fitting title. I wish they would have stuck with this for the Pink Panther movies, but I guess they wanted that branding. But this one, it's eventually they decided, let's make this into a Clouseau vehicle, because I think it was Blake Edwards had been approached about directing it, and he was just like, yeah, Peter Sellers is blow my mind here on this Pink Panther set. This character he's created is perfect. So they just took the play, adapted it for film, and put in Clouseau. So that's all we have.
Peter Sellers' Clouseau cannot be topped. I mean, I know Steve Martin tried to play Clouseau a few years ago, and no offense to Steve Martin, funny guy, but he is just no Clouseau. And I think that's what makes all of these films as good as they are is Peter Sellers. He is a master of slapstick, as I said earlier. But also, he's just funny. I mean, his timing is great. I mean, he is just, if you really want to know what comedy is, you got to watch these films. But this one in particular is pretty much unlike the rest of the series. And can you kind of explain why that is? Other than, what you said about the play, but is there anything else going on that you feel like kind of sets this movie apart from the rest of the series?
Well, I guess if we're just comparing it to the first Pink Panther, that one, Clouseau's kind of a side character, which doesn't make sense because it's mainly David Niven. Like, I think he was the first guy that was billed. He's the Phantom, or actually I don't remember his thief's name, but he was the main draw. And Clouseau was just this bumbling idiot that was supposed to be investigating. But they decided, no, this guy's the star. Stuff Peter Sellers is doing is amazing. Let's do him. Because if you think about that movie, you remember his scenes. You remember his trying to put on the gloves or some of his random stuff he did throughout. That was all mainly ad-lib, because that's Peter Sellers' approach as an actor. He becomes the character. I love this quote by him. It's kind of sad, but it also shows you sort of how great of an artist he is. He says, I don't really know who the real Peter Sellers is. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but I just try on characters. I'm just this character, and then I'm this character. And that's what he would do, is he would become Clouseau. He got these mannerisms. He got this voice, whatever. And that's what, to me, stands out, is I think this is the best Pink Panther movie when it comes to his performance. I think he's not as shticky yet. Yes, he says myths. Right. And what's the other word that he says? He's got that little bit of that French sort of overdone accent, but it's not to the point of the other films where it seems like he's kind of like, I forgot how I did that voice back in '64. I'm just going to try an approximation here. Because I think in this one, he's not play acting. I think he really is Clouseau. I see it in the way he walks. I see it in the way he addresses others. He's just perfect in this film.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a lesson in comedy, watch this guy. Really anything he's ever done, you could watch. I mean, he's got a long list of movies other than Pink Panther, but I really think this is his masterpiece right here. And I really feel like, he was the benchmark that other people like Mike Myers and Robin Williams, Sacha Baron Cohen. I mean, when you look at all these guys that have been since.
Don't forget Eddie. We'll talk about him next episode.
We will. Eddie Murphy, of course. But when you look at all these guys that came after, I think they have to at least give credit in part to what Peter Sellers did, in particular with Clouseau. And yeah, I agree with you. I think this is the best movie of the series. And, it had been a while for me, you mentioned like 20 years or so since you've seen this film. It's been that long for me. So there was a lot of this film that I had forgot about, and there's a ton of performances in here that are really, really good, other than Peter Sellers, that I'm sure we'll talk about here in a bit.
I'm dreadfully sorry, Monsieur Ballon. I appear to have grazed your billiard table.
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yep. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, like we said, he's just a master of comedy. He's a master of timing. But also he knows, like he comes up with these accents. He just kind of transforms himself, is what I'm trying to say here, into the roles that he plays. And like I said earlier, I don't think he gets any better than what he does with Clouseau. But this is a Clouseau that's different in a lot of ways than the cartoon, pun not intended, that it becomes in the later movies. Would you agree with that? Because this is definitely a different Clouseau in this film than, say, in the Pink Panther itself film.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's definitely scaled down a little bit. I think he's definitely more believable and more approachable here because we see his why he's. I don't know. It's very funny. I guess we should get into the plot just because I'm about to step on it a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
But yeah, it starts off. We have a murder at this Monsieur Ballon's estate, and nobody knows who did it except for there's one suspect, Maria Gambarelli, the maid, and Clouseau is assigned this job, much to the chagrin of his superior, Mr. Dreyfus, or Chief Inspector Dreyfus, I should say. But Clouseau shows up, and he's put on this case, and immediately he just throws all sort of things that a detective is supposed to have out the window because he sees this woman and he falls in love. And that's my thing about this movie is he's got desires. He wants Maria Gambarelli. There's no way she could have done it, even though everything's saying she probably did it. She had something to do with it. She's having this affair. She's doing all this crazy stuff, but he can't get past that. It's like she's just so attractive. To me, I love that first scene where he first sees her, and he's like, "Oh yeah." When she comes out of the shower, and she's obviously dressed. She's got the robe on, but he's just enthralled. He just forgets everything about the way a detective's supposed to act, and he just almost falls over himself over her. And then he eventually catches his jacket on fire too.
What? Oh, it's nothing. It's from that thing over there.
You're all wet.
What? Oh,
Is it raining?
No, it's just that stupid driver of mine parked too close to the fountain.
You should get out of these clothes immediately. You'll catch a death of pneumonia, you will.
Yes, I probably will, but it's all part of life's rich pageant, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you know what? Can you blame him? I mean, the Maria is just so beautiful. I mean, she is definitely bombshell in this. Played by Elke Summer, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with Elke Summer.
Elke.
I tried to see if there's any Elke Summer. Excuse me. I was trying to see if there's anything else that I recognize her because she seems so familiar, but looking on her IMDb page, I can't really see anything big that she was in other than this, but I think she knocks it out of the park. And like I said, who can blame Clouseau, because she's really pretty and she does have your attention when she comes on screen, and so I think that's really good. Her performance, I think, is it's not anything special per se, because I think some of the other actors do most of the heavy lifting when it comes to the acting with this, but I think she plays I don't even know what the word is. I was going to say femme fatale, but that's not right. I guess. I don't know. What do you think? Is she a femme fatale?
Maybe like a pseudo sort of silly version of a
Yeah.
femme fatale, because
Right.
yeah, she's got the blonde thing down, and she's very attractive, of course, but she's not really the corruptor. She's more of a Bambi
Yeah.
character almost to me, that she's just kind of haplessly
yeah,
walking
yeah.
through. It's like, I don't know what's going
Right.
on. I don't know why they put me in jail. Murder, what are you talking about? We were just having an affair. That's no big deal. Everybody does it.
Yep.
And then she's also just randomly goes to nudist camps and hangs out with people. So she's a very interesting character. I wouldn't say she's a femme fatale, though.
Over here. Quick. Listen, that's Dudu.
Dudu?
She's dead.
Dead? Dudu?
Right. There's definitely some other characters. Of course, you mentioned Mr. Bellone, and he's of course played by another famous actor himself, who is famous for the only role I could remember is Shere Khan. But talk about his performance. He's sort of the straight man to Clouseau's, goofiness. What do you think about him?
I think he's really good. I always like George Sanders. He's like you said, he's got one of those great voices, and you need somebody like this in a scene with Clouseau. You need somebody who is just no nonsense. Just you can tell he thinks a lot of himself, because he's just got this nice house, this beautiful wife, and Clouseau, meanwhile, is acting like he's got it all together, but at the same time he's not. And I love this scene they do together with they're playing pool. You would think that, I mean, has Clouseau even seen a pool table before? That's probably the only part of this movie that's really not believable at all, is that he just has no clue of what to do out there. But yeah, I like George Sanders. He's a good sort of uppity millionaire type, and it's kind of funny when it's revealed that the reason why he wants Clouseau on the case is because he doesn't want anybody to solve this murder. He wants it just to kind of get lost, and he just wants Clouseau to bumble his way through. So he's kind of a fishy sort of folk too.
Yeah, he is definitely, he's got the voice, he's got the look. He's definitely one of those that you think it almost immediately, oh, there's the guilty party right there. That guy's done it, because he just looks guilty. He looks scary. He's kind of, intimidating. But I do want to apologize. He's actually not the straight man to Clouseau. The straight man is, of course, Hercule. And that guy, I didn't remember him. I mean, I remembered him going into it, but I didn't remember anything of substance. And he's kind of a forgettable character, but I think that's kind of on purpose, because he's just sort of the background guy. What'd you think about him?
I love Hercule. I wish he would have been in every single Pink Panther movie after this, just because he's perfect. And I don't know why they didn't they struck gold with this one, because Hercule, he's obviously supposed to be the novice. He's learning from Clouseau. He's been assigned as Clouseau's sort of helper. And I love it when he's like, well, obviously it's Maria Gambarelli killed him. And then Clouseau's like, you're an idiot. How could you be more wrong than you are right now? But he's like, but the facts. He's like, don't mind the facts. There's no motive. And I just really like this actor. I don't know if Graham Stark did much other things, but
I don't notice anything else.
But he's perfect, and like we were saying with Monsieur Ballon, you need a straight person with Clouseau, because Clouseau, he's just all over the place. And Hercule,
Right.
he's got the great reactions, and I think that's the most important thing. Is like, I don't have to say anything. I'm just gonna look at this guy like, what is going on here? What is he saying? Like, remember the scene where Clouseau's like looking around? He goes out in the hallway, and then all of a sudden Hercule brings him Maria Gambarelli behind his back, and he's like, "What are you doing? Why are you walking around like that? What are you doing, Clouseau?" And it's just really good. I love this character.
Yeah, I had to say, like, at first I was like, man, if I had to play this part, I'd be kind of bummed because I don't do much. But the thing is, you're sitting there, you're watching Peter Sellers do his thing. That'd be the easiest job in the world, just to kind of like let him do his thing, and then every once in a while come in there and give a line or two. And he is the perfect straight man for Clouseau, in my opinion, because he is, he's not wacky. He's not really loud at all. He kind of fades into the back there, but I think his timing with Peter Sellers is really, really good, and he's one of my favorite characters in the film, and I really got a deeper appreciation for him in this role, in this viewing, just because of his counter with Peter Sellers, and that's what you need in a part like that. You can't have two Peter Sellers, otherwise it's just going to be an exhausting watch. But yeah, I think he played off Peter quite well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I saw they actually did some improv together a few times, like the whole watch scene. They were just like, let's make up something right here. And they just made it the whole synchronized watches thing.
Right.
Right. He's great, but what I want to talk about next is the side cast of characters, because like we said, this is a series. And this one introduces a lot of new characters that become part of the series. And the first of these I got to talk about is Herbert Lom as Dreyfus. So Dreyfus is Clouseau's boss. He's the chief inspector. And Clouseau's just making his life a living hell. He's just a terrible detective. He's always ended up he actually gets arrested a few times. And he keeps releasing Maria Gambarelli, even though she's the suspect. She should stay in jail. Nobody's paying her bail. Right. Clouseau's just like, release her. We have to follow her to see what else happens. And meanwhile, Herbert Lom has got some great reactions. In fact, as the movie goes on, you watch him, he gets more and more crazy. Till eventually by the end, spoilers, folks, he puts a bomb in Clouseau's car and blows up 6 people. So that's why he ends up in insane asylum in the other episodes. Or should say mental
his
hospital.
performance is really good. I want to talk about Burt Kwok as Cato, because he's an interesting character. What do you think about Cato?
Yeah, I like Cato. It's once again, they're establishing stuff that's going to be part of the series. In this case, it's the running joke of Clouseau having his butler to attack him when he least expects it. And
at all times.
At all times. When he's asleep, when he's on a date, whatever. And Cato, obviously Burt could do a lot more. I've seen him in other films where he actually talks more and everything. But he's a pretty good character. I enjoy his aspect in here. And do you know where Cato, that name, comes from?
I don't. No.
It's from the Green Hornet, like the old show on the radio.
Oh yeah.
And they were just like, here's the butler for the Green Hornet. Let's have this butler in here. And I didn't realize, because at first I thought they were playing off the show with Bruce Lee, but then I'm like, wait a second, this movie came out before the show. So then I was like, oh yeah, it was a radio show. So yeah, that's where Cato comes from, and it gets played much better by Bruce Lee later down the road. But this Cato, it's very funny. I think these two, once again, have really good chemistry, and I think as the series goes on, you can tell they had a lot of fun with these scenes in particular.
Inspector Clouseau's residence. One moment, please. Commissioner Dreyfus.
Hello,
Yeah, and that's the thing that I remember. That's probably one of the few things that I remember from the entire series that just really made me laugh was this guy that, and he's a little guy. He's shorter, obviously, and he is just a spitfire. I mean, you could almost call him the straight man, but he's not really straight. I mean, he's kind of a goofy character in his own right. Not maybe on the level of Peter Sellers and Clouseau, but he definitely, has his moments. And like I said, there's plenty of time where he'll just show up, Clouseau will be in the bed, he'll just show up and start beating up on him. And, Clouseau's like, stop, he doesn't want him to do it. Pretty much anytime. I think he gets tired of it after a bit. But it's a funny running gag. And, props to, props to that guy. He could have been a one-note character, but I really think he added a lot to the character, and as the series went on, I think it just got better and better.
Yeah, and once again, I'm going to give Blake Edwards a little bit of credit, because he starts something here that I think martial arts movies kind of borrowed from. I'm not sure if he's the first, but he shot some of the things in slow motion, and it makes it look cool, and that's kind of a big sort of staple of martial arts films, so... Way to go, Blake Edwards, for introducing that to the fight scenes. I guess he did get that from Kurosawa. Kurosawa does that sometimes,
and that kind of brings us to the production side of this film, and what went into this film, how it was made. Talk a little bit about the production and what maybe you found interesting this go around that maybe you missed years ago. Talk a little bit about the production side of this film.
I don't know what it is. When I see old movies like this, I just get the warm and fuzzies because I think the studio system was just great. To me, shooting movies in a studio where you can control the lighting, you can build the sets, all that stuff. Yes, it's artificial, but to me, these movies look a lot better than some of this green screen stuff we get now. But it's really cool, and I love that the commitment to it. We're going to have these certain parts, these physical places to interact in. But also, if you think about it, there is some very simple scenes. Like some of the best scenes are just Clouseau in his office interrogating Maria Gambarelli. Very basic stuff. But they also kind of take it to other places, such as the whole montage where they go out on their date. They go to this like Spanish place where the guy's doing the dance and everything, and it's just it takes you to places that you could tell this movie was made very quickly, but they still put a lot of care into it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of substance to this film. You mentioned all the places that they go. Of course, one of the funniest parts is the nudist colony when they end up there. That's hilarious.
You should take off your clothes.
You, sir, are under arrest.
Arrest? What for?
For making lewd and suggestive remarks to an official of the French government.
Lewd and suggestive remark?
Also for indecent exposure. Doesn't anyone wear any clothes around here?
No.
What?
This is a nudist colony.
A nudist colony?
But this is just such a timeless classic here, and to me, it performs. You mentioned earlier, I think you said something about it being a play, and it really performs like a play, especially those scenes where he's doing the interrogating and has everybody in like the living room or whatever, and he's just kind of walking around. You could totally see that on a stage, and I think that really works with this film. But I love the look of this film. It's such a timeless look, and even on DVD, even enhanced and everything, I really thought this was shot really, really well.
Yeah, I've got to pause here for a second. I was thinking the same thing. I think it looks really good, but I was like, man, this would look so much better if they actually did it better. Because I was watching it streaming, and I could tell that certain shots were like, we were losing something here. This would look beautiful in 4K. So, attention, whoever's got the rights to Pink Panther, release it, please. But back to this. I love that you mentioned that big climax, that big scene at the end where he gets everybody together, and really, if you just wanted to show that scene to somebody, just tell them a little bit what happened, go into this, they could just watch that last 15 minutes
Pretty much.
and be very content because it's spectacular. It's Peter Sellers on all cylinders firing, and just the where this goes, because you think this person did it, but no, this person did it, and then this person, and it turns out we have a whole house of murderers, and it's just a great little twist, and it kind of shows you how just silly this movie is. I mean, it's a comedy, obviously, but at the end of the day, nobody's getting carted off to jail. Nobody really cares. They're just more concerned about everybody cheating on each other more than they are about the actual murders and everything.
Yeah, it's you almost forget really what's going on as far as like there's a murder investigation just because of all the shenanigans that ensue. So the story is just kind of lost there for a bit. Then you have this wonderful scene, at the end where everybody's sitting there and everybody's nervous and Peter Clouseau is just clueless the entire time. Like, I don't think he ever gets anywhere near the resolution. And, as you mentioned, Ballon was counting on that. Because he's like, this guy will never figure it out. He's so stupid. And it'll all be good. He just kind of, like, trips his way into solving the case, really.
That's pretty much it. I mean, that's the typical thing in a Pink Panther film is he just kind of bumbles into it, and somehow or another, people think he's great. And Dreyfus, in particular, doesn't know that, or he knows that this guy's an idiot, so that's why he loses his mind. It's really good. There are a few more things I want to talk about before we finish this up. One big thing that we didn't mention earlier when we were talking about the comedy, all the sight gags in this film. What do you think about the uses of sight gags in this one?
It's one of those things like you don't see stuff like that in films anymore. Like every time he would get arrested for doing things, he gets arrested for being in the nudist colony. I mean, I thought that was really funny. Is it overdone a little bit? Maybe, but I still found it really funny. And I think it was my wife. Somebody had said, kind of reminded her of like all the stuff that Monty Python came to do, and I think there's a lot of that in this. That's some of the side stuff is some of my favorite parts of this film. So I love it.
Yeah, to me, my favorite running joke is whenever he's going undercover, he's dressed as the balloon salesman, and one he's a hunter, and another he's undercover, but he keeps getting arrested because license or something like that. He's Clouseau. And they just have that little shot of the paddy wagon taking him off, and they just continue that all the way up until, like you said, the nudist colony, when you see the two guys sitting there looking at the naked people as they're getting carted off. It's a really good part of the movie, and like you said, I wish they still included stuff like this. I guess it is a little bit of callback to the like silent movies, just when all you could go on was just sights.
Right.
And to me, it's really cool. I really like that aspect of the film. So I guess there's one other thing we have to talk about, and that's all of these Pink Panther movies have just two things in common. They have immaculate music by Henry Mancini, one of the best composers of the period.
Definitely.
And it has some great title sequences, these great cartoons at the beginning. Let's talk about those.
I think that's what makes this series very unique. You look at films, and again, this is something you don't see a whole lot of nowadays, with these elaborate, title sequences. But this particular is interesting because of the way it looks and how it complements the story and kind of gets you in the mood for what you're about to watch. I really enjoy it a lot, and I really think the music. You mentioned the music. I think the music's probably some of the best of the series in this film. I actually took a mental note about that because I thought I didn't remember the music specifically. I mean, I don't even think the actual Pink Panther theme in this?
No.
I don't remember it.
That's
So,
no, it's not. That's one thing that makes this one different. Is it's got its own theme song, which I kind of like it. It's got the more surf rock feel to it. Do, 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 do. It's just really cool. I like Henry Massinio great because he's got something my favorite composers do is they obviously know a lot about music and they know how to conduct an orchestra, but he also brings in contemporary music into it. So he brings a lot of jazz influence, a lot of surf rock, like I was saying, and just a lot of the cool stuff that was going on in the 60s at the time. This is definitely a 60s sounding movie, and I really like that. I think that enhances it. And as far as the cartoon, like you were saying, you nailed it, man. Like it's setting the scene, it's getting you excited for it.
Yep.
And apparently, whenever they first screened this movie, people were so excited about that they just stood up and started clapping that they had to like pause the movie and like, okay, the actual movie started. You need to pay attention.
Yeah, it's impressive. And again, this is definitely something they did a lot more back then. And I really think, like I said, it just kind of gets you in the mood for the film, and it's just perfect. I think this film, I think a lot of people forget about this film when they talk about the Pink Panther series, and some of the later films were more known and more famous. But I really, really feel like this might be the best in the series. I love the story. Obviously, the characters are really funny. And what's interesting is if you go back to the first film, and we may talk about it later on, I remember it not being as near as funny as this one. I remember it kind of being a little more serious, and it had its comedic roles, but definitely Peter Sellers was toned way down in that one. In this one, he's not all the way to crazy like he is in the others, but he definitely does show a lot more comedic chops, and his gags are hilarious, as we mentioned. And they just really stepped up the comedy in this one, and I think that's what sets this one apart from the others. Is while he does a lot of the same stuff in the others, I just don't think he does it any better than this film. And it's one that you cannot say enough good things about it.
Yeah, and I think you really nailed it there yet again. This is Peter Sellers as Clouseau. He is Clouseau. They're basically inseparable at this point. And the other ones, it seems like he's kind of trying to recreate that performance, and it's not as good. This one, it's very natural. You can see it every time he turns around. It's like, what was that? Or just him dealing with people. You can tell that this was very natural for him, and that's. I mean, yeah. Go ahead. And I was gonna say that's kind of sad thing in a way, because I know he and Blake Edwards had a big falling out after this one, because basically Peter Sellers accused Blake Edwards of being a hack director, and then Blake Edwards was like, well, you just are making up stuff all the time. Why do we even have a script? So they eventually rejoined forces about 5 years later, but at this point they were very mad at each other. I think this is the best one. I think it's definitely worth checking out just for seeing Peter Sellers, probably one of the best 2 or 3 year runs in history, as he does these two movies, and Doctor Strange immediately after it and gets nominated for the Oscar. So he was great.
My wife and I sort of have this game sometimes where we'll watch films or TV or whatever, and we'll be like, okay, if they remade this film, or this, who could play this role? And she did this with the Pink Panther series, and of course I mentioned the Steve Martin movies, but I think that proved right there nobody could play Clouseau now. I don't care who, Sacha Baron Cohen. I mean, that might be good, but I really think that Peter Sellers is Clouseau, and Clouseau is Peter Sellers, and you cannot top it. There's just no way. And I wouldn't want the role, because I'd just be so intimidated by it, just because of what Peter Sellers, his genius. And that's nothing against Sacha Baron Cohen or Robin Williams or any of these other comedians that came after that obviously were inspired by Peter Sellers' performance. I mean, even myself, I've done some comedic work and kind of put some Peter Sellers in there. So you can't overstate what he brought to this I think if it's anybody else, this series is dead in the water after a couple films. I really don't think this film series survives 5 films, I think, in total. I just don't think it survives that long with another actor.
Well, they tried. I think it was,
I know,
and it didn't go too well. So they came back to him like, "Here you go, buddy. Here's you a big check. Play this part." And he's like, "Okay, I like money." So definitely check this one out, guys, if you haven't already.
Yeah.
It's streaming on Amazon Prime right now. I think it's one of those deals where you can just watch it with some commercials, free of charge. You just need a Prime account. I think it's also streamed on YouTube, so it's definitely available. Unfortunately, you cannot buy it on Blu-ray or 4K. So that's enough for that.
It's all over now, darling. You're free.
Episode.
Eddie Murphy is a Detroit cop.
Coming up, guys, we're going to continue our comedy praise because we've got a guy that's as funny as Clouseau and Peter Sellers, and that's Mr. Eddie Murphy. And his sort of breakout role.
I just love this movie. Eddie is electric. He's on top of the world. Funniest man on the planet. It's going to be great to talk about it.
On the next episode.
If you guys have not started following us on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, if you're watching this and you like what you see, we have a whole channel of reviews. So please subscribe, like this video, so that, that helps us out a lot. And go on our socials and let us know what you think of the Pink Panther series at SuperCaZt with the Z. Would love to hear from you. So join us next time. I am the Superfosh. He is Steve Z. We'll see you guys next time on the SuperCaZt.